The Stevens family had always dreamed of adventure, and the Alaskan cruise seemed perfect: glaciers, eagles, and wild bears. For Emma, the teenage daughter, it was the bear excursion that sealed the deal. "A hike into bear country with a real tracker?" she had exclaimed. "I'm in." The morning of the excursion, the air was crisp and laced with pine. Their guide, a grizzled man named Clint with a rifle slung over his shoulder, led the group deep into the Tongass National Forest. "Stick together, no loud noises, and don't wander off," he warned. At first, the family was in awe. They spotted paw prints, claw-marked trees, and even saw a black bear lumbering across a ravine. Clint kept them at a safe distance and whispered stories about bear behavior. Everything felt safe, controlled. But as the hike stretched longer than expected, Emma glanced at her watch. "The ship's back on board time was 15 minutes ago," she whispered to her dad. Clint didn't seem concerned. "We're taking a shortcut back to the van," he muttered, eyes scanning the treeline. But minutes turned to half an hour, then an hour. When they finally reached the clearing where the van had been parked, it was gone. No van, no guide. "Clint," Mr. Stevens called out. No response. "He was just right behind us," Mrs. Stevens said, voice trembling. The forest was eerily quiet. Then, from the shadows, a low rustle, and the unmistakable sound of heavy breathing. They were stranded, and they were not alone. Darkness fell fast in the Alaskan wilderness. The sun dipped behind jagged peaks, casting long, icy shadows through the trees. The temperature plummeted. Emma hugged herself, teeth chattering. "We can't just stand here. We need shelter." Mr. Stevens took charge. "We'll stay close, find a spot off the trail, and make camp for the night. We'll deal with the ship in the morning." Mrs. Stevens pulled out her phone. "No signal, and my battery's dying." They gathered branches and pine needles, piling them under a rocky overhang. Mr. Stevens snapped branches into a makeshift windbreak. Emma found dry moss and lined the space. "This will help insulate us," she said, trying to remember a survival video she once watched on YouTube. They huddled close, but every distant crack of a twig set their nerves on edge. The forest was alive, shifting, breathing, watching. And then came the low grunt, closer than before. A bear. Not a passing glimpse this time, but a presence. Just beyond the trees, Mr. Stevens motioned for silence, gripping a stick like a spear. Emma stifled a sob. The bear sniffed the air, then moved on, its heavy steps fading into the night. They didn't sleep. The cold bit through their clothes. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs, and fear sat heavy on their chests. Clint was gone. The ship was gone. And now, in the middle of bear country, the Stevens family had no choice but to survive. Together, alone, and unprepared. Morning came like a whisper, pale light filtering through the trees, casting the forest in a gray, shivering haze. The family emerged stiff and silent from their shelter, grateful to have made it through the night. But the woods were no less ominous in daylight. "We need to head downhill," Mr. Stevens said, pointing toward a slope. "That should lead us to water or maybe a logging road." But they didn't make it far. A sudden crash of underbrush stopped them cold. A massive brown bear lumbered into view, blocking their path. It reared slightly, sniffing the air, eyes locked on them. "Don't run," Mr. Stevens warned, his voice barely audible. But instinct betrayed them. A sharp crack, a branch underfoot, startled the bear. It lunged forward with a thunderous growl. "Go, Emma, run," Mr. Stevens shouted, waving his arms to distract the beast. Emma grabbed her mother's hand and bolted left down a narrow game trail. Mr. Stevens ran the opposite direction, yelling, drawing the bear's attention away. Branches whipped past Emma's face as she and her mom fled blindly through the woods. Behind them, the bear's growls faded, but so did the sound of her father's voice. They finally collapsed behind a fallen log, gasping for breath. Emma's hands trembled. "Where's Dad?" Her mother looked back the way they came, silent, stricken. They were separated. And now the forest felt even bigger. even more unforgiving. Emma and her mother sat huddled beneath the fallen log, listening, hoping for any sound of Mr. Stevens. But there was nothing. Only the whisper of wind through the trees and the occasional snap of a distant branch. "We have to find him," Emma said, her voice barely louder than a breath. Her mother shook her head gently. "We will, but not blindly. If we get more lost, we may never find our way out." They moved carefully through the underbrush, leaving markers behind, strips of Emma's flannel shirt tied to branches. The forest, though haunting, came alive with clues. Claw marks, broken foliage, bare scat. Every sign reminded them how close danger still was. Meanwhile, miles away, Mr. Stevens limped along a shallow stream. His ankle throbbed from a fall, but he was alive. He'd seen the bear veer off after a few minutes and now focused on survival. Scanning for high ground, something reflective, anything to signal. He pulled out a small metal mirror from his hiking kit, a souvenir Emma had begged him to carry just in case. He angled it toward the sun, flashing beams across the treetops. Then he built a crude help sign from branches on a clearing floor. Back with Emma and her mother, Emma squinted up through the trees. "Did you see that?" she whispered. A flicker of light again and again. Her heart jumped. "Mom, I think that's him." Hope had returned. A tiny, flickering signal in the silence. The glint of light never returned. Emma kept staring at the treetops for hours, waiting for another flash, another signal. But the forest swallowed everything: sound, light, even hope. Her mother finally pulled her close. "We have to keep moving. If we stay in one place, we may never be found." They followed the stream downhill, exhausted and hungry. Every hour felt like a lifetime. Then, in the distance, the faint whir of an engine broke the silence. A ranger's ATV. Emma jumped up, waving both arms. "Help! Over here!" The ranger, a woman named Kelly, brought them water and wrapped them in emergency blankets. "We've been searching this region for missing hikers. Your excursion group reported you missing after the van returned without you. You're lucky we were this far north." "We're missing someone," Emma said quickly. "My dad. He got separated." Kelly's face turned serious. "We'll alert the search teams right away." They were rushed to a ranger station, then transported by helicopter to the nearest port town. But the cruise ship was already gone. It had departed without them the night before. At the dock, surrounded by rescue workers and reporters, Emma scanned every face. "Where is he?" she whispered. Her mother didn't answer. She just pulled Emma into a hug. No sign of Mr. Stevens. No more flashes in the trees. And as the wind off the ocean howled, one truth settled cold in their hearts. They weren't all coming home.